Welcome everybody to the Listen and Learn segment of this week's edition of the Mediator. I got a special guest. Go ahead and tell us your name and a little bit about yourself, Cap.
My name is Kenneth Donaldson, Sr., and I am born and raised here in Youngstown, Ohio. I went away for about 20 years for different schools, and I'm running for the Youngstown City School Board.
Now, okay, we're in this season of election season. So, tell us why you're deciding to run for Youngstown City School Board.
Yeah, I'm a graduate of the Rand High School, 1986.
Okay.
And so I know many of us went off to college and achieved our degrees and so on and so forth. But since I've been back, I was away for 20 years, Tennessee for 10 years and Texas for 10 years. And I've been back here in Youngstown for 14 years. The very first year that I came back, I started volunteering at the school. And so there's some challenges in our city school, not necessarily challenges that cannot be overcome, but our kids got some serious challenges. And the reason why specifically that I'm running for the school board is there needs to be some stability on the school board. There needs to be some consistency, and there definitely needs to be some accountability.
Now, you're talking about over 30 years of transitioning. You've seen we've seen Rand have to go from transitions.
Right.
You've seen East have to go to transitions. We've even seen Wilson and Cheney. We've had the South High. So that's over 30 years. Then you have CEO after CEO transition from there. Then you have not only that, but you go from students to scholars. So the most amazing thing about it is you don't know how it's going to affect the kids. So how do you plan to address the transitional problems here in Youngstown?
Yeah, now that is a challenge, because when there's no consistency, there's really no baseline. So the baseline is moving from year to year.
Yeah,
the standards are moving from year to year. So what I plan on doing is, again, when I come in, I want to first assess where we are. It's hard to project where we're going to be before you have a good understanding of where we are and how we got here. And so what I really plan on doing is assessing initially, and then we've got to raise the standard of accountability and expectation. You know, I don't have a problem with changing the lingo from students to scholars. At the end of the day, if our kids are not educated properly, the lack of education will lead to a lot of what we're seeing now, crime and blight here in the city. So education is a means to giving kids an opportunity to compete in the game of life. Without an education, they're doomed to do things that they're doing now. They're dependent on the system to take care of them, and nobody really wants the system to take care of them.
So you do believe in the fact that the academic structure needs to be more recycled, so these kids will come back and they will learn how to reinvest. Now, and you believe that education has a lot to do with that. Now, when you talk about the curriculum and how the curriculum has not only evolved, but it has become advanced over the years. And I know that you have some seminary knowledge. You served as a pastor. Now, the curriculum from back in the day had more centered around morals, principles. Now we have more of a I can't say it's more scientific, but there's just more of a curriculum based on the fact that the challenges ahead have to be more systematic. Do you believe in a curriculum that is more centered around the traditional model, where there's morals, standards, and God, and now they have even what they're talking about, critical race theory and things like that. So do you believe there needs to be a more traditional curriculum, or do you think things need to be adjusted?
Well, I mean, that's a challenging question for a few reasons. One, when I was in school, you had your basic curriculum. Morality was a little different. When I was growing up, there was a respect that you had for older people. even if you disagreed with them.
Yeah.
And so that was something that was coming from inside the home. And so now we're dealing with the population of people who have some challenges inside the home.
Okay.
There's a good number of kids that are homeless.
Yes.
There are kids that have issues of poverty, deep poverty. But even when I was growing up, there was a sense of just a sense of community. There was a higher expectation, and so everyone was pushed to be better academically. I wasn't the best student in school.
Yeah.
But I knew that I didn't want to live the way that I saw people living around me. I wanted better.
Makes sense.
And so I fortunately had a father who pushed me academically.
Yeah.
You know, I wanted to work with my hands. Now we're in a time where working with your hands is not a bad thing. You know, my dad just wanted me to use, he would say, you know, I want you to use a pencil or a pen. I don't want you using your hands the way that I do.
Yeah.
But, you know, I was a first generation college student.
Yeah.
Many of our students, they don't have that backing at home. And so I think the baseline education is good for our kids, but we just need to keep the standard high. I believe that every kid can learn, and that's where the educational accountability with the teachers. There's a different way that we've got to teach different kids.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying we need a whole different curriculum, but I'm saying the way that we approach education has got to be multifaceted.
Yeah.
If I learn as an auditory learner, if I hear something and I learn it, as opposed to someone who is a visual, as opposed to someone who likes to put their hands on it. But teachers need to be trained on how to transition from one learning style to the other.
They have to recognize it.
Absolutely. Because everybody has the capacity to learn. And so we need to have, and I would say, release our teachers to teach in such a way that's effective for our kids.
That's a good answer. And I like the way you word it. And so you do think that parenting and a lot of that has to do with the way kids are trained.
Right.
Makes sense. And I guess the last question before we take a break is when you look at how the standard of living is compared to back in the day, do you think that will play any role in if you do get a board position?
No, because I think at the end of the day, if we lower the standard because the standard of living in the home, I think we don't do well by our kids.
Okay.
We have to keep the standard high. Listen, I understand that some kids have challenges.
Yeah.
Many more challenges than others. But we have to keep the standard. Listen, life is not going to get any easier for them.
Makes sense.
And so we cannot lower the standard. We got to keep the standard at a level where they not only could achieve it, but they could succeed under that standard, and then they can break those cycles. That's the only way that you can break those cycles.
Makes sense. We're going to take a quick break. I'll be right back with Mr. Donaldson, and we'll talk about House Bill 70, and on top of that, the arts. So we'll be right back. We'll take a quick break here on the Mediator. We'll be Brent West. I'll be right back. Tune in and don't forget to subscribe to Method 8 Inc. YouTube channel. You can also watch free public entertainment. And don't forget to show some support by visiting www.method8inc.com by buying something, clicking something, watching something, or just reading something. You can also sponsor a program as well. That's www.method8inc.com. Buy stuff, watch stuff, or read stuff. Welcome back. I am here with Mr. Donaldson, aka Pastor Donaldson, if he wants to be called pastor, but I'm sure he does want to be addressed by his academic and scholarly name. So we're going to go into the next segment here. Now, we're talking about academics here, and we've talked about some things. Now Youngstown is faced with the Academic Distress Commission, also known as House Bill 70. Right. Do you think that is actually good for this district?
No, I never have been in agreement with House Bill 70. Anytime you have an organization that comes in that takes away all of the power of the citizens, I don't think that's good. But what it has done, it has highlighted the need for structural change.
Yeah.
It's highlighted the need for leadership and accountability.
Yeah.
And so it's hurt us in the sense that the people who had the charge of overseeing our education, they no longer have the power to do that.
Yeah.
I remember when House Bill 70 was initiated and they came in on their horses and, you know, they had these dreams of, okay, this is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
We're going to flip the educational system around and we're going to do this and do that. But what they didn't account for is a lot of the stuff that they had to deal with. We've been dealing with it for years.
Okay.
And so I spoke with some of those people and told them, listen, you know, I shared this with someone earlier, and this is my mentality even as it relates to me being on the board. One of my mentors told me, he said, Ken, you don't tolerate a whole lot of stuff. And I rather, you know, proudly agreed.
Yeah.
But then he went on to tell me, he says, you know what? And this was referring to ministry. He says, you're going to have to learn how to tolerate some things and earn the right to be heard.
Yeah.
And so House Bill 70, when they came in, they weren't listening to what was actually going on.
Yeah.
They didn't know they didn't understand the culture. They didn't understand the dynamic and how we got to where we were. So they came in and they just came in with as an authority, and it didn't work.
Yeah, and you know, it's funny that you mentioned that because sometimes that's actually what it takes for a curriculum that's put in place to work. You have to listen to the people who are enforcing it. So that makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely. You got to earn the right to be heard.
Yeah. Now, when you talk about this COVID-19 and these mandates, and we talk about House Bill 70, and do you think that it's being handled properly when it comes to the students?
Well, I think they're doing their very best. You know, for many of our students, being out of school has not benefited them.
Yeah.
They don't have the support that they need to succeed academically. And it's not that parents don't want their kids to succeed, but if they don't have the background to be able to support them, then, I mean, they can only do what they can do.
Yeah.
So I think the school has tried to do the right thing as it relates to COVID. They've had this hybrid model. It's worked for a good number of students.
Yeah.
But at the same time, some students has fallen through the cracks, and that's almost to be expected. But there needs to be accountability on all levels.
Yeah.
From the administration down to the parents and the students.
Yeah.
And so this model, whatever people think about the school board, we've got to cooperate with one another. We've got to listen to what the needs are of our frontline defenders, our teachers.
Yeah.
We've got to deshackle them so that they're able to be creative in their teaching. Yeah. And then we've got to hold our kids to a higher expectation as far as their academic success.
Which is good. Now, there are some final questions that have to be asked. I've supported, been an advocate for the arts in this community for over 14 years. How do you plan, if you do get elected for the board seat, to try to not only revive but implement the arts back into to the schools here?
Yeah, one of the things that the board is supposed to do is to implement policy. And so a part of implementing policy is looking at the needs like the arts. The students that, in fact, there's a high likelihood of kids that are playing music that they have academic success. They just say, this has already been proven. You know, the arts have a vast, they're people who sing, they're musicians, they're artists, there are so many different areas of arts. There's like this, technology, and using technology to photography and so on and so forth. You know, I think what education really should be about is helping kids find out their purpose for living.
Makes sense.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so everybody's not wired to be nuclear physicists.
Yeah.
Everybody's not wired to sing.
Yeah.
But in our educational system, we should have a foundation where kids could find out what I'm good at.
Yeah.
And why I'm wired.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because what happens is if we send them out and they have no idea what their purpose is.
Yeah.
Somebody said 80% of people go to work every day and they hate their job. And so we set our kids up to be successful according to whose standard?
Yeah.
You know, is it making the most money? Is that the goal?
Yeah.
Or is it actually fulfilling my purpose? And that's where, you know, the whole faith comes in. I don't have to go around with my Bible and quoting scriptures, but if I can help a kid find out what their purpose is in life, then listen.
See, that's enough.
Oh,
I've always said that if you find out what toys the kids like to play with, that's usually what they're going to become. So you find them the toys to give them,
absolutely,
and you can teach them. So that you basically saying you find out what books they like to.
Absolutely, and that's what the arts is. You know, some people, you know, some of these kids are so argumentative, and they're sharp.
Yeah.
And so
debaters.
Absolutely. And so why wouldn't we cultivate that gift that they have, as opposed to looking at it as just a sheer defiance?
Makes sense.
So you know what? If you hone this, you will be an excellent defense attorney.
Yeah, if they like to fight, put them in the boxing ring.
Oh, listen, and some people just have that knack, and people like to talk to them, and they find themselves comforting people, and people just come to them. They're like a magnet. So maybe you need to think about maybe going into counseling or something like that, where you could utilize your gift of empathy to help other people. So I think that's what education should really be about. It should be about helping our kids find out their purpose.
And what I like is you're elaborating on this, and I can't forget about the athletes out there. I did not ask this to another candidate, but I will ask you this question because I've seen coaches try to stress academics to athletes. Do you plan to keep that same strategy in place?
Oh, absolutely. Listen, I played in sports from 6 years old all the way through college. I went to college, Middle Tennessee State University, as a walk-on football player, earned a scholarship. We won a few championships. I played on the 1985 state championship basketball team and ran high school. So I think I'm big in athletics because I think as a coach, you can reach kids in a way that you can't reach them any other way. I mean, and so at the same time, the work ethic, the team building, you know, all of those things are absolutely necessary to be successful in life. If you can't work with people, then you're not going to be real successful.
And you're a family man, and you've been.
Listen, I've been married for 30 years
to
the same woman. I have one son. He's 22. He's a student at Youngstown State University. My wife is working on her PhD at Youngstown State University. I have 2 master's degrees. I'm all about education.
Academics, education.
But I'm more about purpose.
Purpose.
You know, if I could touch a kid and help them see that, listen, that pain that you went through, the difficulty that you had, God could actually use that. And he may be using that as a platform for you to do what you're actually wired to do.
Makes sense. And you've served the community for how long?
I've been here for 14 years.
14 years.
And I like that you said serve, because, you know, even as a pastor, you get me into the Bible. Paul identified himself as a servant, as a slave, a doulos. And so I don't need any accolades because I'm here to serve. And the best way for me to get to where I want to be is to help other people get to where they want to be.
You're using wisdom, and that's good. And now we're going to close this segment. Are there any last comments you'd like to make to the city of Youngstown and why you should be voting on the school board?
Well, it's a critical time, and drastic times require drastic means, and it's imperative that you get out and vote. Our kids, they deserve better.
Yes.
And I'm not saying that I'm better than anyone, but what we've gotten over the last 10 years has not been beneficial to our kids.
Been 30 years. 30 years. I was proud of. I see this. It's almost been 30 years.
Yeah,
it's transitions.
Our kids deserve better.
Makes sense.
They deserve better, and it's going to require someone that has the patience, an intentional way of looking at education, and intentional approaches, and it's going to take some time.
And I guess the last question is, how can people, if they have questions, how can they get a hold of you? Are you on Facebook? Do you have an email address or any social media accounts?
Yeah, I have a Facebook account. It's under Kenneth Donaldson. Also on Messenger, and of course email, Pastor KMD, Kenneth Maurice Donaldson @gmail.com. Pastor KMD @gmail.com.
All right, everybody, you heard it from the man himself. This is our second candidate that has been on the show to run for the school board of Youngstown, and I really wish you the best of luck. You sound like you have the right intentions, and you sound like you have the right credentials to do the job. You sound like you've served enough to do the job. And remember him at the polls. When you see the ballot, you'll see his name, Kenneth Donaldson. If you have any questions, you can get in touch with him, or if you have any comments, you can always post them on the link here. And I want to thank you so much for tuning to the Mediator this week. And please show us some support and continue to support us. All you have to do is go to the website, buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or just sponsor a program. Thank you for tuning to the Mediator this week with me, Brian West. I'll be back next week reading through over 200 or more stories just for you to keep you informed. Have a good week, everybody. Peace.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.